Hey guys, welcome back to Highlights. I'm your host, Michael Clark, and I'm joined as always with Wayne Rogers, our Director of Programming. Wayne, welcome in.
Hey, good morning.
And today we've got an opportunity to highlight a good work. I'm assuming this is the correct name of the work, right? Mosher Ministries?
Yep.
And just to get this out of the way, since we're a work of the Memphis School of Preaching, no relation to Keith Mosher, right?
As far as we know, not immediately, but we suspect somewhere along the line we are related because of our histories, our heritage, and, of course, our last name.
Sure. I'll certainly be praying for you if that's true. No, we love all the Moshers we know, and Brother Keith Mosher is in that group for sure. This is Mosher Ministries, though, and so, Lance, I'm going to go ahead and have you just kind of introduce yourself, your family, and then we'll get into the work.
Cool, I appreciate it. So, I'm Lance, and my wife is Kristen, and our two boys are Silas and Asher, and we are kind of in the midst of adopting, so we might grow our family, so shout out to that person, whoever it is. And I appreciate being here. Kristen and I met at Freed-Hardeman University back in 2007. We were both art students, and she likes to say I like the way she drew. But she drew my attention, and that's how we met, and we got to know each other, and then eventually got married, and soon after that we got into ministry.
That's great. Well, I've known of you for a long time. I think really the journey that is in this booklet that we're looking at here is when I first became familiar with you with the Transformed book, and then Clouded as well, and Searching for Brandon Basin. I remember that one because ironically, I wasn't good for this, but just a side note, something that I don't think I've ever told you. I wanted in 2020 to get into voice, overwork, like reading books and things, and so I got on Amazon, the AXX, whatever site it was, and Searching for Brandon Basin at the time was one of the titles, and I was like, oh, well, I know Lance, maybe this will work, and I clicked on it, and it said must have these requirements. I was like, Lance won't like that. I won't do that. So it's not for me.
Okay.
But I'm thankful for the work that you've done, and I've been familiar with a lot of what you've been doing. But this is something that is it's new. I'm unfamiliar with this. These topical Bible studies. But in regards to all the evangelistic work you're doing, why don't you tell us what Mosher Ministries really is?
I appreciate it. So Kristen and I, we moved to New Zealand 2012 BC, that is before children, and we ended up having children on the mission field. But we moved to New Zealand to plant the church in Porirua and work with John Jones and his family and Kevin Moore and his family. And so for a while, we were known as the Moshers in New Zealand, and that's what we kind of called our ministry. That was our email address and our website. But then we started working worldwide with people through a website and also book writing. And as we started thinking about when we would move back to the States in 2021, we thought maybe a shift in title would be good because we don't want to put ourselves in the corner of the world. We want to be worldwide evangelists, even though my heart is still in New Zealand, and that probably won't ever change. But our ministry is not just in New Zealand. We still serve as much as we can there, and we do plan to, Lord willing, go back next year for the first time as a visit. But with Transformed, a spiritual journey, originally it was called something else, but then World Video Bible School got a hold of it and helped us distribute it far and wide, and people have been using that book in their evangelism. Also, we've been using it in our evangelism. We give more copies away than we sell, and I had a couple of people from a children's home tell us yesterday that book has been pivotal in their ministry and also the catalyst that has launched a lot of their students and their residents into their spiritual journey and even their baptisms. And so Transformed, a spiritual journey, like you said, is where a lot of people know me from. But then I continued to write books. And Searching for Brandon Basin, you didn't even give me a chance to turn you down.
I know, I should have. But one of the requirements was for one of the characters. You had to have a certain ability with your voice. Do you remember what that was?
Yes, and so... there's a long story. I suppose we don't need to take up airtime to go through, but there are different races represented in the book, and we wanted to make sure that we were culturally appropriate in that and made sure that we weren't, breaking any faux pas, things like that.
Sure.
We wanted to be sensitive while we represented certain people.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that and just thinking, I have never done this before, so I don't even think that I should try. So I hope you found somebody. Did you?
Yes, I did. Jake Hunsbusher. He did a great job.
I'm glad you got that done. Audiobooks are becoming almost as big as podcasts now again because they're so accessible. So I think it's great that you're able to get some of are all of these books before Brandon Basin as well? in audio format?
So all of the paperbacks are, for instance, Topical Bible Studies Volume 1. That came out last month.
Okay.
And Brother Jay Webb did the recording, and he did a fantastic job. We worked together closely to produce that. And so all of the books are on Audible, 4 of them. We've produced more than that, but the other 2 are not, I guess, conducive for audiobook format. One of them is my photography journey through New Zealand, and I guess that wouldn't make a lot of sense to put in audiobook format. And the other one is a children's book that we have regarding adoption.
I won't lie, though. I wish you did have it in audio form. Could you imagine that? Beautiful mountain landscape with lush green grass. Someone's like, you have to see this to believe it.
Well, maybe I should give you that opportunity.
There we go.
Yeah, right.
I finally got my first gig.
You can describe it, man. No doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to talk about the topical Bible studies specifically for just a minute, and then I'll let Wayne kind of talk about some stuff that y'all have done together recently and other things he wants to add in. But I'm looking at these statistics here as of July of this year, 2024. Have 183 videos, a new one on average every week, 35,000 monthly views, 14,184 subscribers, 1,900 hours watched monthly, and 500 plus new subscribers each month. So it's really not getting any traction, is it? I mean, it just, you're
Sounds
doing
like
a
it's
lot
struggling
here.
a little bit, right?
It's just, we need some people. You need to go and, if you're listening to this, subscribe right now.
Absolutely.
He needs the help, okay? No, in all seriousness, this is impressive. And how 183 videos, is that, since you said on average every week, did you start about 183 weeks ago, give or take?
No. Let me try to think of some, do the math in my head, but no. So I started back in like 2014.
Okay.
I was thinking about how I could expand my website. So when I first got into ministry in 2010, I wanted to study deeply the questions that I've had along the way. And so when I studied my questions, I wrote my answers down in paragraph format so I could go back and really dig through my mind and what I was thinking through that. And then I thought maybe some others could benefit from this, or maybe I should send this out to others for peer review just to make sure I'm getting things right. And so I started sending out emails, and then I started posting it on a website. I went to, I think it was yola.com back then, a long time ago, and I found the domain topicalbiblestudies.com was available for $10, and I couldn't believe it. And I know a lot of preachers, they kind of shy away from the idea of topical studies. We want to be expository guys, right? But of course we do. One of the things I'm constantly reminding the audience is that it's dangerous to our understanding, sometimes to our soul, to zoom into a verse, come up with a question, close the Bible, and then try to answer that question as it pertains to a topic. And so I remind the audience that we have to study the text in context, and I do as much expository work on there as I can. But what I like to do is pose the videos in the form of a question, a topical question that would do well on a Google or a YouTube search algorithm base. And so I started back in 2010 with the website, and then 2013-14, I thought I would preach a sermon, and I thought maybe that would do well on the YouTube channel. So I'd push record and upload a sermon, and sometimes it did really well. Like I did one on Mormonism, and right away I got almost 100,000 views, and that was when YouTube was still it wasn't the big social media platform it is now.
Right.
And so I did pretty well, and I thought maybe if I get more time, this could be a bigger part of our ministry. But back then it was just anytime I thought that I was doing a lesson or a sermon that would do well, I would do that once every 6 months or so. And then Nathan Franson came, and he worked with us in New Zealand for a few weeks, and he came and did his seminar on Mormonism. And since my video had done so well, I thought, while you're here, let's record some stuff. And so he recorded his entire seminar, and I put that on the YouTube channel. But then when we moved to Chalmette, we can talk about that a little bit more later, but when we moved to Louisiana, I did tell the church that I'd like to spend a significant portion of our ministry online to see how well we could do with this. And so I've only seriously been putting videos out for about 1.5 years now, and it is doing so well. And so now we are doing a long-form video right now every 10 days, but then we're putting out a short every week. And it's not just a copy and paste from our long-form, and that is a good, for those who do know YouTube, a good strategy is to take good snippets from your long-form videos and turn them into shorts. But we actually record original shorts now, And we, like the one I released this past week was Pop Quiz. Which one of these is actually found in the Bible? Ask Jesus Christ into your heart, receive Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, or obey the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it gives people an opportunity to think about it and then figure out which one. And it surprises them that the third one, which is not preached in most churches these days, that's the one that's actually found in the Bible. And so these statistics are a little bit out of date already. That was just last month, but now we've got 17,000 subscribers. So that was 14,000,
Wow.
Now we've got 17,000. And so we are encouraged by the work that it's doing. Every week we set about, I guess about 1 or 2 Bible studies on average every week, people who come to the channel, and they start asking questions in the comments, and we try to both address those questions but seed other questions. And then we tell them, if you'd like to study this personally, send us an email. And sometimes they do. And wherever they are in the world, we try to connect them with Christians so that the Christians in their area can conduct those Bible studies. But if that's not possible, then we jump on Zoom and have a personal Bible study with them.
Well, and it's interesting, too, and then I'll throw it to you, Wayne. I like what you said about topical Bible studies being important, but so many of us look at it and go, no, we got to be expositors. Last I checked, Jesus preached primarily topical.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's the greatest preacher that we've ever known.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
is the greatest preacher. Paul, when he talked to the church at Corinth, dealt with the issues topically.
Yes.
And so if we're not careful, though it's expository for us to go through those texts and try to draw out what they would have so known from the culture
course.
and background, topical preaching is certainly, has its merit, and I think has gotten a bad reputation because people have not done it correctly.
Yes.
And so I like what you're trying to do with that.
And I appreciate that. And I approach the pulpit differently than I do on YouTube now. Back then, not so much. But now I do, and I realize they're 2 different audiences. And when I am trying to build the knowledge of a congregation, I think expository is a great way to
Yes.
go for sure. But people on the internet, they're searching their questions topically, and they want to
Right.
know, what does the Bible say about the last days, or about I don't know, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or
Right.
whatever. And so those are, I address them topically. And by the way, anybody who does browse the videos, you might see some very interesting titles to my videos that almost sound New Age-ish, but it's because I'm trying to attract those who are searching in those terms with that vernacular. But of course, once they click on the video, my goal is that they get fed Bible, they get fed
Right.
Scripture.
Well, and I've loved this work that you've been doing for a while. When and partly because Nathan had told me kind of what you were doing, when he was over there. Nathan was in school with me,
Right.
And so we're close friends. And so when he was telling me about the work, and I kind of got excited, and so started kind of getting online and starting to look for and checking out those videos and everything. And I do like the idea, because you got to have something. We were talking with this, house to house. We were talking about David Webster. You almost have to have a little bit of a hook,
Sure.
to get people to
Absolutely.
connect.
Yep.
Both visually and those first things that you say.
Yes.
The first couple seconds. Or else they scroll on, move on, especially in a short or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
The way they pop up.
Yep.
And but I love that you have. It's clear that you've been busy doing this work. You've covered a great deal of topics, and so and spent a great deal of time, obviously, in studies and things like that. And I love the front of this little packet that we have in front of us, because it says evangelism, it's what we do. And of course, our recent meeting down at Chalmette is where we really kind of got to know you a little bit, you and Kristen. And when I think about the work that's going on there, and what kind of impressed me, we just kind of came alongside. Forest Hill was doing their thing, come down, and I said, okay, well, this will be an opportunity for us to just kind of tag along.
Yeah.
And we wanted to work and get to work, and so this was a good opportunity for us to be down there with y'all. But what I loved about it, and I know it was the day before we got there, but y'all sat down with those teenagers, and you gave them kind of a formula, going, we're going to go door knocking. But here's the formula that I'd like for you to use, and it's tried and true, and it's worked for you. And I saw it and was really impressed by it from the standpoint of anybody could pick it up and start doing it in their community today. It's not this deep, theological thing that you've
Right.
got to be prepared for all of these questions that might come at you. No, here's a couple things, and it was kind of the community survey
Yep.
approach. And I know there's a little hint of some search for truth in there
Yes,
with
there
Fishers
is.
of Men,
Uh-huh.
and so it is about evangelism, though, and it does get to the heart of the matter with people. And so just kind of let's talk about Chalmette and,
Sure.
and the work that you've been involved with down there, but also want to kind of take it to, okay, these outreach campaigns, because I know this is something that's especially futurist, that you're working toward
Yes.
to be able to do kind of that work.
All right, so hopefully we can hold on to the audience for a minute, because I do want to get into that,
Yeah.
and hopefully give the listener a tool that they might be able to go away with
Yeah.
to, like you said, use in their community even right now. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be door knocking. It could just help
Right.
them in their conversations at the grocery store or with their family members. But in 2022, yes, we moved to Chalmette, and Chalmette was the church who has overseen our work since day one. And while we were wrapping up our work in New Zealand, they said, would you like to come down and help us for a couple of years with our outreach and just encourage the congregation? And of course we said yes. Now we did spend the first year back in the States as missionaries and residents at Freed-Hardeman. Loved that opportunity, and I was busier than I had ever been during that time. So it was good to come down to Chalmette after that and get plugged into the church and train the members there and preach and help Mark. For those of you who are listening, you might know Mark Lance, and he's enjoyed, I think, a little bit of a respite because he's always been the one preaching for 20 plus years, and he's had a couple of surgeries. So it was a blessing to be able to share the pulpit with him.
Right.
And then to help teach Bible classes and then encourage and train the members. So for this outreach, this is something that we have formed and shifted and changed over the years of our work in New Zealand, because in New Zealand, every 2 years, we would have Freed-Hardeman students come and help us knock thousands of doors. And we wanted to try many different ways of approaching the door to find the best way. And I'll tell you about a failure back in 2013 or 14, I can't remember. In 2013, we knocked about 1,800 doors, but that's only 10% of the doors in our city. So we didn't cover very much ground, but we did some good. We set several Bible studies, and a few people became Christians because of that, but I was a bit disappointed that we only covered about 10% of our city. So I thought the next campaign, what we would do is invite people to a special event. We would have a gospel meeting. Kevin Moore taught it, and we knocked 18,000 doors. So that's 60,000 people represented among those doors, and we invited them to come to the building to hear a series of lessons. What does the Bible really say? And we felt really good about that because we covered 10 times as much ground as we did the previous year. Mm-hmm. Of those 60,000 people we personally invited to the building, none of them showed up. 2 people did come as visitors, but they were workers in the city next to us, or they worked with one of our Christians in the city next to us. So she had personally invited them. They came, but nobody we met at the door came to the building. Now, I'm glad to say it did plant some seeds, and we were able to follow up on some of those people, and good things happened. But it did teach us that if you lead with the invitation to the building in the 21st century, it's not going to work. Maybe 100 years ago, you could have allowed that. That would have produced a lot of fruit, because 100 years ago, if you wanted to be educated or entertained, you had to leave your house.
Right.
But today, we have every reason to stay in the evening, and most of us desire that. We work hard during the day. We don't want to leave the building at night or leave our house at nighttime. We've got YouTube, Netflix, video games, rest and relaxation. Why do we want to go somewhere that would be awkward socially? I don't know these people. And so we all feel this way, and of course, everybody else in the community feels the same way. So I don't think there's anything wrong with inviting people to the building. It just doesn't produce the results it used to. And so I think it's fine for churches to use a special event as an excuse to go door knocking. We've got a vacation Bible school, a gospel meeting. Right. But what I say in these campaigns now is we don't lead with the invitation, we leave them with the invitation. We lead with a conversation. And in our first few sentences, we don't use the words church, God, Bible, or Jesus. Those are good words to use. But as soon as people start hearing that, they have some experience that's going to put us in a box and not give us an opportunity to truly represent God, the Bible, church, or Jesus. And so we do show up, and usually it's 2 by 2, and I'll say, hey, my name is Lance, this is Michael. We are conducting a community survey. Could I have just a couple of seconds of time for you to answer a couple of questions? And usually people respond favorably to that. They might be standoffish at first, and they might ask, so what kind of questions? Well, how about I ask the first question, that would answer your question, and then you let us know if you want to answer our questions. And sure, all right, the first question is, and by the way, I didn't come up with this. I heard it from, I think, Barry Hatcher originally, and then I took it and changed it a little bit, and then my friend John, he took it and changed it a little bit, so it's morphed going hand to hand to hand.
Yeah.
But the first question is, how many Bibles would you say are in your home, including installed on electronic devices? And then they give us an answer, and we write that down. And it's good to have these statistics, by the way, to gauge the flavor of a community. So we really do want to hear the answers to these questions. They're not just an excuse to get to the main question at the end. Second question on the survey is, in the last year from today, how many times have you personally visited a religious service? Often they'll say, do weddings and funerals count? Sure. And they give us an answer, we write the answer down. Third question on the survey is, of these three questions, which one stands out to you? Which one is most interesting? Can we know there is a God? Is the Bible from God? Or will most people go to heaven? Of course, you can change those questions out depending. You know, when I was working in Fiji, the moment I changed that last question to, are we expected to tithe today? Man, that really got people's attention in Fiji. So change it depending on your culture. But whatever, three closed questions, which one stands out to you? They answer it, you mark the answer down, and then your hands fall to the side. You're no longer recording the rest of the conversation. You're just engaging in a conversation. Hey, thank you very much for engaging in this survey. Your results have really helped, or your answers have really helped us. But before I leave, let me ask you, you chose that third question, will most people go to heaven? That one stood out to you. You mind telling me why that was most interesting to you? And then they start talking about what they think about heaven or God or the Bible. You could at that point ask a follow-up question, but you don't have to. You can say, hey, another thing that we're doing right now is you've given us some answers to these questions. What we'd like to provide you is an opportunity to study your Bible to find an answer to that question. And then between the last few campaigns, we've set between 13 to 16% of the people we spoke to said yes to a Bible study. So in Chalmette last month, when you guys came, we knocked 771 doors, spoke to 309 people, so less than half were at home. But of those 309, 40 people said yes to a Bible study. So that's 13%.
Yeah, percentage-wise, that's a lot higher than you know. I mean, you're usually at about a 1%
rate. That's right. That's what we're used to, is about 1% with the methods we've tried in the past. But this one has just worked so well. Yeah. And everyone we've shown it to has said, this is working for us. That's what we want to do. And would it have worked the same way 100 years ago? Probably not. 100 years from now, probably not. But right now, people are starting to realize community is important. So if you introduce it as a community survey, and of course, like I said, if you start with religious terms, I've had enough of you guys. Who are we? They don't know, but they don't want us because we're religious. And so we slowly introduce them to the idea of religion. And by the time the survey's over and we've offered them a Bible study, they still don't even know where we're from. Yeah. I'm Lance, this is Michael. That's all they know. We're offering so you can explore the Bible to find answers to your questions. And then they might ask, well, where are you from? Oh, and then I've got a pamphlet or something. We're from the local Church of Christ or whatever. But that's when, whatever they say. So if they say no to a Bible study, but they've had a conversation up to this point, we can say, that's no problem. But another thing we'd like to offer is prayer. Is there anything in your life that we could pray for? And then if they answer that question, could we pray right now? You pray with them. And then you write it down and say, okay, this is number 17 Jones Road. Would it be okay if I sent you a card? Would it be okay if I return in a couple of weeks to see how Perry is doing? Just get some kind of permission to follow up with them, so that when you do follow up with them, maybe you have sent them a card, you show up in 2 or 3 weeks, and you say, how's Perry doing? By the way, have you thought about that Bible study I offered you? And at that point, you've sent them a card, and you've returned to ask about their family member. This person cares for me. Maybe another member has dropped off bread or cookies or something. You don't want to abuse people's personal contact information, especially in the 21st century. But if it's just nudges and you're not asking for anything in return, then I think it could really prime them to say yes to another Bible study. And of course, it gives you an opportunity for someone to pray for. Yeah. And then, by the way, when I said you don't lead with the invitation, you leave them with the invitation. As you're leaving the doorstep, let me tell you, we've got a vacation Bible school going on this week. I'd love to see you there. Then you hand them the flyer or whatever. But even if I don't see you at Vacation Bible School, I'll see you Tuesday at 2 o'clock for that Bible study.
Right. And it's just another reminder, too. Hey, I'm coming back Tuesday, so and so you kind of get to say it a couple of different times, different ways and different times, within the conversation. And you get a little more commitment, seemingly, is at least what I was able to see, a little more commitment from those folks from what is typically cold door knocking, has just been a struggle in the last several decades, But what I love is the idea of community, bringing that idea of community in, because that's that's a focus on a lot of people right now. What are we doing as a community? Well, why isn't the Lord's church a part of that community conversation?
Yes.
That's where we want to get to. And so I just appreciated the approach and the not only the efforts but the results that we were able to see, you know. And of course I know those Bible studies, you know, those 40 Bible studies that were set up, that was just amazing, and they were already taking place that week. And so really some of that afternoon started when they were set up, and so wonderful. When I think about where you're leading with this, you know, what do you see future wise? Mosher Ministries, where's it going?
All right. And it's kind of morphing along the way, but this is kind of how we picture it, and it can change. So I've already committed kind of to Chalmette to come down yearly to help with this Vacation Bible School and door knocking. So we really look forward to that, but we also want to make this available to anyone else. So John Jones and I are co-directors for Make Disciples training program. It's another school of evangelism, and of course it's not meant to be some kind of competition to fishers of men or the other one, the house-to-house one. We wrote this while we were on the mission field. We brought it to the United States. We've now taught it in Australia, in Fiji. It's been taught in Mexico, in the UK, and we've taught it in several states in the US. And so I want to train people in how to evangelize through Make Disciples training program. And that's offered in two different ways: in a seminar format, which is usually a Friday night and a Saturday morning, but it could be broken up if needed. And then a 10-week program as well, which is about to be turned into an 8-week program where you get the same information, but it takes a little bit less commitment. But it is a commitment for someone to sign up for that big program. But we are also starting to think of a way we can combine a couple of different areas of our ministry. So you've got the seminar format where I or someone else could come and train through the seminar, Friday and a Saturday, for instance, and then we stick around for a week and knock doors Monday through Friday to help the congregation start implementing right away what they've learned in evangelism, and then to hopefully drum up some good contacts for them. We are hearing a lot of people say door knocking doesn't work these days. Of course, we know better, but they don't. Why? Because of everything we've talked about so far, and they've probably done some things that I did back in 2014, invite 60,000 people to the building. People aren't coming to the building anymore, understandably. But if you can change your approach a little bit, I think it would work pretty much anywhere you go. Yeah,
and I think with evangelism, we always have to kind of adapt and be flexible. That's what we teach in the Fisher's Meeting. You know, you got to adapt, you got to be flexible, you got to be versatile.
Yep.
And so, but that also means sometimes you have to change your approach. And every community is different.
Yep.
And you have to keep that in mind as well, too.
Yep, completely agree. And of course, if we were going to a certain community to help with this kind of campaign, we would spend some time with the folks on the phone or even in person and try to gauge that community and not just try to do one size fits all.
Yeah, Lance, thanks so much for all you're doing and everything that you're planning to do. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we sign off?
All right. Well, we've got Topical Bible Studies. You can go to the website, which is topicalbiblestudies.com, but then the YouTube channel as well. Just search that, or youtube.com/Topical Bible Studies. We would encourage any Christian to go there and look at some of the videos, engage the subjects that we have covered, because half of it is to try to reach the world through natural, organic means, through algorithm and all of that. But the other half is trying to put resources in the pockets of Christians. As you're discussing with your coworker how the Holy Spirit works today, he or she might be thinking about the gift of tongues, and you can say, hey, I know a good YouTube channel that's got 3 videos on the gift of tongues. Let me send you the first one tonight, and then tomorrow during our work break, we can discuss that, just to give everybody some more resources. So check that out and be familiar with the things that we're doing. We've got the next 140 videos planned, so stay tuned.
Awesome.
And then also I'm working on 8 more books right now, so keep in touch regarding the books. And if you're interested in us coming to help with your evangelism in any way, short term or even in a longer term, let us know. Lord willing, in November we are moving to Jackson, Tennessee. Right now we're in the Chalmette area, but we're moving to Tennessee later on this year, 2024. And so we might be closer to some of your listeners. Even if not, let us know how we can help with your evangelism.
Very good. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Lance taking some time out of your day to be with us. Wayne had no choice. He had to be here. So, Wayne, get it together, man.
I'm trying.
Lance, we appreciate all you do with Mosher Ministries and the Kingdom. We'll be praying for your efforts over the next several days and months and Lord willing, years.
Oh,
and
thank
so we hope and pray this will continue to be a success. And for those of you listening, we'll have Lance send over his information to us to include in the show notes, where you can find all of his good stuff, and you can find our link tree and all of our information down in the show notes below. Until next time on Highlights, take care.